This is supposed to be the next Star Wars game we're getting, Star Wars Zero Company, set to release in 2026. This one is being developed by Respawn in collaboration with BitReactor. It's a single-player turn-based strategy game heavily inspired by the XCOM series of games. In fact, a bunch of the developers that worked on this previously worked on the XCOM series, and it's set during the Clone Wars, but not on the front lines. Instead, your squad, which are heavily customizable and will evolve around your playstyle, work in the shadows of the Clone Wars on secret missions which you'll be leading.
Just like the simulation.
Now, even though yes, this is a strategy game, the developers have heavily stressed that they want it to have broad appeal, that they're trying to make it different to any strategy game that came previously, even though it's heavily inspired by the XCOM series. I believe they're aiming to create a much more cinematic experience than what we've previously had in other strategy games, and that's part of what's setting this game apart. But they're also not sacrificing this game's level of depth, and are saying the game will still appeal to a much more hardcore strategy audience. What I find super interesting about this one is that no two playthroughs are going to be the same. The decisions you make will have permanent effects on your playthrough, characters will die, and the game will evolve around your playstyle. I also got to previously speak to some of the Zero Company developers and ask them some cheeky questions about how that's going to work within the Star Wars canon. If everyone's story is kind of different, then how are they setting this in the Clone Wars? And they wouldn't really give me an answer, but I'm assuming there's going to be one canon playthrough, and then everything else that happens is just kind of your own interpretation of the events, which I think is great. I don't think Star Wars games need to necessarily follow the canon and have their place in that. Why can't Star Wars just be fun? Let's make Star Wars fun again. That's my goal. Customization is insane in this game though. For example, if you want your squad to just all be astromechs, you can do that. And I believe you start each playthrough with the game's main characters, but then can evolve as you play through potentially. But if they're allowing you to have a full squad of astromechs, I don't see why you wouldn't also be able to have a full squad of clone troopers, maybe even a full squad of Sith Lords. I want to lead Gungan squad into battle. That's my goal for Star Wars Zero Company. I'm renaming my game to Darth Jar Jar Company. I believe there's also a bunch of difficulty options. For example, you can have permadeath as a setting where if a character dies in your playthrough, they will remain dead forever. You can fail a playthrough of the story as well, I believe. But we haven't really received all the nitty-gritty details just yet. There's also a bunch of different planets, locations you'll be visiting throughout the galaxy, planets you can choose to travel to, and I believe certain missions you'll have to do, but then there'll also be others that are optional. This one's set to release in 2026, and overall, I'm excited for the customization. I'm excited for a new Star Wars strategy game, and I'm also hopefully excited for the option to play as a squad of Gungans.